I would love to hear, like, how long did you actually prepare for the sale, or if you did prepare at all? And what does that actually look like? Like, what meetings do you have to go to? Who do you have to talk to? How long does that take? And what should people think about if they're in a position that they know they want to sell their business in the next couple of years? What should they start thinking about today?
Great question. And I think there are like different answers based on the size and scope of your business. If you're a $1 million Amazon retailer, you're going to sell your business in 6 weeks when you go to market to one of the guys from, who's buying businesses off Quiet Light Brokerage. And, your process will be much faster and more streamlined than ours is. If I was planning on selling my business in the next 2 years, what I would try and do is button up things like my finance. I'd be like, let me get my financial statements audited by a third party so that everybody trusts that the numbers that I'm providing them are accurate. The other thing that I would think about that not enough e-commerce entrepreneurs do is estate taxes and tax planning. Like, you can either increase the size of your business 20%. Like, you can sell your business for 10 million or 12 million. And you'll earn $2 million, or you can just save $2 million in taxes. You could be like, I'm going to sell my business in 2 years. Maybe San Francisco, California, or New York City, New York are not the best places to sell my business. And I've been thinking about moving to Austin in the next 18 months. Maybe I should accelerate that time period now. Because that'll save you a fortune in money. But really what I would do is I'd go to a tax planner or like an estate planner and try and manage those taxes so that I had to not just pay as little as I have to now and minimize my taxes today, but also set up estates so that my children can like benefit from the sale of this company without a ton of inheritance taxes. So I would do all of those things. It goes without saying that I try to maximize revenue for the next 2 years and maximize EBITDA, because those are how you're going to buy and sell businesses. From a sale perspective for us, what happened is someone came knocking on our door in February 2017. At first we didn't take the knock too seriously, and then it got louder, and the company was like a legitimate buyer that had, more than $1 billion in revenue. And so we're like, okay, we have to take this seriously. And as we sort of started talking to them, we're like, look, if we're going to sell a deodorant business, we should probably talk to the people who sell 85% of the deodorants in the United States, and that's P&G and Unilever, and to a lesser extent Edgewell. And so we hired an investment banker and talked to the private equity guys that you'd probably recognize in the space, and the consumer brands that you'd recognize in the space. It's about a 6-month process. You send them presentations, like a 100-page presentation about your company. They say we're interested or we're not. If we're interested, this is sort of the range of prices that we'd be interested in. And you say, yeah, that's a good range. Or this guy offered me $10 million for my business. We don't need to go any further with that guy. You invite him in, you meet him face to face, and then you sort of like say, okay, what's the number that you actually want to pay for this business? And you negotiate and sign documents. It's not like, I think one of the surprising things is I probably met the P&G guys 3 times before we actually signed documents and sold the business. Like, not a lot. And, 3 times, once for 4 hours, once for like 6 hours, and once for like a shorter period of time than that. So like not a ton. And really like, what you really want to create is an advocate for yourself inside their decision-making body. Like, you want someone on their team to be like, we need this business and here's why. And sometimes it's your vision. Sometimes it's the business itself. Sometimes it's their business sort of going sideways and understanding that they need an injection of new talent and new brands. And I think we were sort of a combination of all of those things that made the deal happen.
How did you manage all that while running Facebook ads? Or did you at the end give this thing up? Because that I find this, I've had this conversation with so many e-commerce entrepreneurs that are like in the marketing seat where they're in there every day trying to like grind Facebook ads. What was your day like? Were you just not sleeping? Were you awake for 6 months? How did that work?
Yeah, you definitely sleep a lot less, and you're far more irritable. Like I remember being quite irritable at the time, and people would be like, our customer service team would be like, hey, this customer's got a problem. And like in my head, I'm like, I'm trying to sell this business and you're worried about a tracking number, like solve this issue, In reality, they did a phenomenal job, like, handling everything. I think like people will say, I'm going to try and sell this business. And if I don't get the number I want, I'm just going to continue operating the business as is. That's a great idea, but the reality is that like trying to sell a business is pretty consuming, and it's hard to do that and manage
Yeah.
Facebook ads. And I bet if you looked at it, our ROAS went down like in October 2017, right before we sold the business, because there was like my attention was really on the acquisition. Still profitable, still good ROAS, just not as good as it could have been. I think that like, anyone who tells you that they're able to balance both really easily is lying to you. You can't do it.
Yeah.
Like at some point, people like it's not just like the meetings that you have with these guys. It's the diligence request list. Like there was a company that asked us for every single email that we'd ever sent in the life of the business, the open rate, click-through rate, and the revenue generated from that email. And like, that is a huge diligence. We didn't provide that. I was like, look, if you think you need that level of information on a business that's 2.5 years old, you're not ready to buy this business. We didn't provide that, and it wasn't P&G. But like, that's a really encompassing sort of request. And if you want to fulfill all of those requests, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of focus, and you're sort of strategizing with your team, yourself, your family, your estate planner, all of those guys. And all of a sudden your attention is 80% on the acquisition. There was definitely a point during the process where I was like, this business is going to get sold. I'm not going to be the owner of this business in the next 30 days. I don't know who is going to be that owner, but I know it won't be me. And that really changes your mindset too.
In what way? In what way? How did your mindset change?
Yeah. I think you're like, one, like I got to get this deal done. And so now I should spend less time focusing on Facebook ads and sending out emails and doing customer service and making sure I get this deal done. Because, in part it's your incentives and in part it's the right thing to do. If you focus on Facebook ads and don't get the deal done, the acquirer doesn't care about what your Facebook ad performance is. He doesn't get the benefit of the company. And so I think you're like, these keys belong to somebody else. In the same way that if you like sold your house and you were like renting it for a month, you're like, I'm going to maintain it as best I can because I love this place. But at the same time, I recognize it's somebody else's house and I want to prepare for that transition. And in part, like, P&G, and like by the time we were deep with P&G, they were like, hey, look, this is the direction we're going to take the business. We were sort of stepping on the gas with oral care and ready to launch a toothpaste right when we sold. And they're like, we need you to not do that right away. And so, we started even changing the way the business was going to operate before we signed the documents.